He kōna ipurangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
No mai whakarong mai ki te Aotai whenua. Welcome to Country Life. Ko Janina Schwaneka, tēnei.
Great to have your company. I'm Duncan Smith. Today we're in a Wairarapa woolshed, which is part of a luxury country estate, where the farmer might find himself showing off his shearing skills to celebrities.
I chat to a former black cap who's used his cricket connections to establish a growing export business in India.
And Cosmo calls in on a small but special A&P show in Western Southland.
But now to a wrap of what's been making headlines on the rural news desk. Concern is mounting for farmers around water shortages for stock, and that comes on top of the lack of feed. Drought was declared in Northland, Waikato, Horizons and Marlborough Tasman regions last week, extending the earlier Taranaki declaration. While welcome news, Federated Farmers Northland President Colin Hanna says some farmers are running out of groundwater, so dams and troughs are drying up.
I think that's what triggered it more than anything, because everybody seems to have feed, either stored feed or dry grass, but water seems to be the major problem.
More lambs have been heading to meat processors because of the dry conditions. In some works, there are reports of 2-week backlogs.
Meanwhile, prices have hit record highs at the first of the season's beef weaner calf sales. 3,300 steers, heifers and bulls were sold over 2 days at the recent Stortford Lodge sale. PGG Rights and Livestock Manager for Hawke's Bay, Neil Common, says steers and heifers were fetching 60 to 70 cents more per kilo than last year.
Yeah, those were new records set, especially on the exotic type steers that sold, up and over $5 a kilo for heavy calves, sort of 280, 300 kilo calves. But just confidence in beef, really. We're on record schedules and all looking pretty good going forward, I would have said.
The Meat Industry Association is also celebrating a resurgence in red meat export value, which hit $927 million in January. The independent chair of the association, Nathan Guy, says beef exports were the star performer, increasing by 6% in volume.
Fantastic returns for our sheep and beef farmers for January. We've had a significant increase, about 28% in export values to $927 million. So it is a real bounce for our farmers. It's been a tough couple of years and for processors as well. So the outlook is certainly a lot better than it was 12 months ago.
Fifth quarter exports, that's edible offal, casings, tripe and tallow, or suet, have also increased by 22% to $159 million.
Over to dairy, and farmers are being urged to spend wisely, despite Fonterra shareholders getting an improved dividend this year. The dairy cooperative announced it expects to report full-year earnings in a range of 55 to 75 cents per share. But Northland MP and dairy farmer Grant McCullum says with global uncertainty swirling around potential tariffs, farmers should spend their extra money carefully.
So if they produce 100,000 milk solids, then under the announcement yesterday, they're looking at around about, with the midpoint, around about 60 cents, which is what my rate is 60 grand, another $60,000, which is not insignificant on a payout. And it is very prudent to go and pay down some debt. Or take the opportunity to invest in a bit of key infrastructure, which is going to improve your business going forward.
And new research shows New Zealand is the lowest cost milk producer in the world. That's according to Rabobank. The cost of producing milk in New Zealand continues to compare favourably with other exporting regions, despite the lift in production costs over the past 5 years. Here's Michael Harvey from the Rabo research team.
New Zealand are very cost competitive when it comes to producing milk, and a lot of that comes down to the production system and the high reliable rainfall, growing feed on the back of rainfall and so forth. So that's the solid footing that provides New Zealand a very strong place on the cost curve.
China, meanwhile, remains the highest cost milk producer due to its high reliance on feed.
A Rangitikei farmer was sentenced to 28 months in prison in the Taihape District Court this week for what the Ministry of Primary Industries described as a horrifying case of animal cruelty. Peter James Valentine was also disqualified from being in charge of animals indefinitely and ordered to pay nearly $11,000 in costs. MPI Animal Welfare Manager Gray Harrison says the scale of the offending was horrific and reasonably rare.
There's 12 charges in total, and 3 of them were the most serious charge in the Animal Welfare Act. And that's a charge that's got a willful and intent element to it. That in itself is reasonably rare, but it was the scale of the offending, and not just scale, but across multiple properties. From 2023 to July 24, he willfully ill-treated 65 animals, recklessly ill-treated 107, ill-treated 153, and failed to provide the minimum standard of care to another sort of 3,100 animals. It was the totality of it all, and obviously the courts considered that custodial sentence was appropriate.
And lastly, good news for the Waiau lovers, with East Coast growers reporting they're off to an early harvest. New Zealand Waiau Growers Association President Roger Matthews says the fruit quality is outstanding. Yum.
There was some Gisborne fruit that was looking quite good. It looked good size and really good colour on the skin and no blemishes. It was good looking fruit, looked well on the shelf, and I think will sell quite well. The price has come back from the really high peak prices of early season, which means that the grower will be getting a reasonable return, I think.
And that's the rural news for this week.
This is Country Life on RNZ National 101 FM.
Prime Minister Christopher Luxon and a large New Zealand delegation are set to visit India shortly in an effort to strengthen relations between the two countries. The Prime Minister's promised to strike a free trade deal with India in his first term, though some have raised questions about whether this will be possible. One of the biggest sticking points seems to be dairy. India is the world's largest dairy producer, made up of millions of small-scale farms, with most farmers having fewer than 10 cows. Our guest this week aims to shed some light on India, where he's been exporting New Zealand goods, including sheep meat, dairy and seafood, for over a decade. Jeff Allett is the Executive Director and co-founder of Quality New Zealand, and a former black cap.
Have been in India for 12 years and loved every minute of it, but it can be challenging, and now very excited to see a government that sees the opportunity that we have.
You had quite a unique kind of starting point for your entry into the Indian market. Can you tell me a little bit about that in terms of your sporting career and how that possibly enabled you to establish some relationships there?
We're very fortunate, actually. We've got a group of shareholders who are also ambassadors, so Stephen Fleming, Brendan McCullum, Daniel Vittori, and Sir Richard Hadley actually is a patron. So the reputations that they have in the market is incredible, and of course the passion that India has for cricket. It is almost a religion over there, and it certainly opens doors, it starts conversations, and importantly, it helps build those relationships.
Can you tell me a little bit about the company and kind of what it's grown into? I see you guys are exporting products like lamb, seafood, dairy, but also potentially it looks like you're branching into beverages and health and wellness products?
Certainly, our main focus has been around the sheep meat. We represent about 66%, I think it is now, of all sheep meat coming into India. Albeit, we've got to be realistic. It's not a number that compares to China or North America, certainly, but we wanted to focus on, gaining market share, and we're really proud of that effort. For us, it's about building the business and the infrastructure within India so that we can almost become a gateway to India for other New Zealand producers and New Zealand products and services. So that's really exciting. We're on the cusp now of sort of being open and available for a range of businesses really that have got an interest in India, but may not have the supply chain, may not have the marketing power, may not have the customer base that we have. That's on the food side of it. On the services side of it, we have what we call a talent transformation business, which is all about skill development, student mobility, vocational training. That's really exciting, particularly in that ag space as well, where we think we can add real value between the countries. We're working on some really exciting initiatives with state governments at the moment.
You mentioned in starting that there were some challenges. What was it that surprised you the most?
We sort of gave India the respect I think it deserves, and that's to go over there about 18 months of due diligence, looking at the current almost supply chain models and how it'll work, after sort of filtering through all the potential risks and trying to mitigate those risks. We went about setting up a subsidiary and a supply chain model in India itself.
How do you think our relationship compares to countries like Australia that do have a fair trade agreement?
I guess from a personal opinion, what I'm seeing and what we're witnessing now of this government is that it's been prepared to take the time to go in and develop. And I'm aware of Minister Macleay being in there at least 5 times, in the last 6 or 8 months, We've had Minister Peters in there as well. And, of course, to actually have a Prime Minister going in, I think the first time in 8 or 9 years, is huge. So in that regard, it's really important. In terms of the structure of a free trade agreement, I think it's interesting, the term free trade agreement. My view is we've actually got to go in and have those discussions, understand what India want, and then look at other models that have worked. And if we look at the Australian model, for example, it took them a long time, and we were very acutely aware of the effort that they put into getting their deal across the line. And I think it's a good example that actually perseverance pays, and so do the relationships.
I suppose looking at the Australian deal as well, dairy was a bit of a sticking point, and it seems that it could be for us as well, or even agriculture more generally. What are your thoughts? I mean, in terms of exporting sheep meat, I understand that there's quite high tariffs on that at the moment.
Yeah, there are, and that is challenging. That has been something that we've had to deal with, and we're hopeful that the sector can collaborate and highlight, if you like, some of the aspects that we can also do to help even the local equivalents. And that's, I'm talking there about particularly the skill development, the ag research, all those other things. We haven't come across any particular barriers to entry, but of course the tariff is a big one, particularly with Australia now, having with their sheep meat having zero tariff. So that is quite a game changer. But, at the end of the day, again, I think each industry within New Zealand has to go, well, actually, do we believe that India is going to be a fabulous market for us in the next 5, 10, 20 years? And if so, how do we start now about creating a platform that's going to allow us to build these relationships and crack open the market? You mentioned dairy, and I think that's a classic one. How can New Zealand contribute to the Indian dairy story as the number one dairy producer in the world? How can we make a difference in their sector, which might help change some of those attitudes around how they perceive the New Zealand dairy industry? I know there is work going on. There have been people, like Zespri, for example, that have been working extremely hard in market, and, they will end, I'm sure, with some sort of arrangement. They'll put in the effort. So, I think it's a matter of actually just looking at it sector by sector. Obviously, yes, we all want a nice comprehensive deal, but sometimes you've just got to start, and particularly in the case of New Zealand, in my opinion, you've actually got to prove the value that we can offer a massive burgeoning country like India, and we've got to be realistic about that.
Can you share a little bit of your insight into what the primary sector does look like in India? Lots of, small-scale family farming businesses. Is that one of the challenges?
It is, and it's very different. And I think, the mistake that New Zealand would make is to just assume that our practices would apply automatically in a country like India. And obviously the vastness of India as well means it's actually quite different in the north than it is in the south. So you've got to be very aware of also the geographical positioning to have different strategies. Again, I come back to, it's a matter then of different industries going in and learning about what their systems are and understanding again how we can help them grow. But when I say that, you only got to look at the statistics and understand. I think they're the second largest beef producer in the world, the largest dairy producer in the world. They might be second largest seafood. There isn't many goods that around the world that are traded that India doesn't have a massive play in or involvement in. It's a question of how can we help improve efficiencies? How can we help improve quality? And that might be through technology. It might be through education. These things will make a difference. And with a burgeoning country like India and a really forward-thinking Prime Minister and Prime Minister Modi, they are aggressively looking at their agricultural sector as a way for them to improve their exports. They will be the third largest economy by 2030. I think when we started, they were 10th. Prime Minister Modi wants to turn the red tape to red carpet and welcome foreign direct investment and other countries in to help India achieve what it's capable of achieving. 65% of their population's under 35. They have a massive opportunity around human capital to develop as a country. So New Zealand now needs to respect that, and it now needs to actually understand the opportunities and start the work around building relationships and respect in that market so that ultimately it will become one of our largest trading partners.
That was Jeff Allett from Quality New Zealand I was speaking with.
Off we go now to the bottom of the North Island with producer Sally Round to meet a farmer who's mixing with celebs and rich listers, staying in the lap of luxury.
Just to throw you in the deep end of that, yeah. Oh, Bradley anyway.
Bradley Monty.
Nice to meet you.
Paula.
Hello. Where are you guys from?
Arizona in the US.
Oh, okay. So this would be probably pretty cold at the moment for you guys.
Yeah, it snowed after we left.
Giving these guests from overseas a few pointers on sheepdog characteristics is all part of the job for the manager of this 530-hectare sheep and beef farm overlooking Palliser Bay.
I'm Bradley Riggs. I'm the farm manager at Wharekoho Country Estate. I've currently been here 13 and a half years, so first year just as the boy, just the shepherd, and then took over the farm manager's position.
Wharekoho is not just a farm, it's a luxury lodge. Royals, celebrities and rich listers have stayed on the remote property over the years. A farm tour or watching farm activities is all part of the offering.
So yeah, I'll explain about the dogs. So we have two different breeds here. The smaller one is what we call a heading dog. Basically her presence is what's shifting the sheep. So that's her left command. She'll go to the left, gather them up. She's just pushing them out from under the trees now. Steady, Sky. So she'll really be using her eyes, steering the sheep down. She's basically telling the sheep who's boss. I'll put Harry out now so you can see the difference in the way they work. So basically the bark is just giving him a lot more power than the heading dog on its own.
The visitors watch intently as the small flock is rounded up in a paddock near the lodge.
So that's on a very small scale, but obviously...
they can do it with hundreds of sheep.
Yeah, thousands even. Here, Sky. Here, Sky.
I've seen the heading dog before, but I've never seen... what's the name of that one?
Huntaway.
Huntaway. I've never seen the Huntaway operate.
Yeah, both of them are very specific.
How fast they operate just amazes me.
Yeah.
Tell me what a typical day involves.
Basically anything from admin right through anything sheep and beef farming to doing the dirty work, dog tuckers, dagging, whatever it is, pretty much I'm involved in it somehow. I do have one staff member also, so yeah, we just muck in together and get everything done.
It's not your typical farming manager's job though, is it? You do have guests staying at a luxury lodge on site who you're also taking on farm tours.
Yeah, that's correct. So yeah, it adds a whole lot of new layers to sheep and beef farming pretty much. Some positive, maybe sometimes some not so positive, not latching gates and things like that, but for most of the time it's really interesting, and yeah, a lot of extra staff also to help run the lodge. So yeah, there's a lot of activity around, a lot of extra things to think about that probably most sheep and beef farmers wouldn't need to think about.
What else are you mindful of as you go about the farm, perhaps with some of these guests, taking a walk or doing a farm tour with a guide?
I guess animal welfare has to be at a higher standard. Just the aesthetics of the farm, keeping it nice and tidy, things like dead sheep. Obviously anyone who's farming will know if you've got livestock, you'll have a few dead stock here and there, so we just try and pick everything up so it's out of sight, and if they did ask about deaths, certainly be honest and tell them the facts and figures around that, but it's not something we actively, or especially for me, I don't really want personally for that side of farming to be seen, but as with humans, we live and we die, so it is part of farming.
Do you think it's an authentic view of farming that they get, or is it a bit of a sanitised view of things?
Once they come into the wool shed, they get, if they want to ask me a question, they'll get an honest answer. As an example, we don't have a killing house, and the other day we had to kill some dog tuckers, and there was still sheep carcasses hanging up in the wool shed, and I just explained to them beforehand that they're there and why they're there, that the dogs need to be fed, and the dogs need a lot of fat in their diet, so mutton's perfect, and we just carry on, and it is sort of I try and integrate actually the real life farming into it, and any questions they ask me, they get an honest answer, whether it's the good, the bad or the ugly. So.
No carcasses in the wool shed today, Just a live lamb in the pen waiting for a demo shear.
So these are tudus, so they're pretty much adults now. They'll have their first lamb as an adult this coming winter, late winter.
So young adults?
Yeah, pretty much.
These all female?
These are all female, yeah.
So if there's not much of a market for wool now.
Unfortunately not, no.
So you shear them anyhow just for like their own health? Or?
Yep. So I'll shear one of these for you in a minute.
Bradley gets on his shearing gear while the visitors get their cameras ready.
So these are what we call shearing moccasins. These are just for good grip. Biggest thing is you're closer to the ground, so you don't have a sole like a normal shoe or boot. The shearers are hunched over all day, so they want to be as close to the ground as possible, because it's all about efficiency for the shearers. The more they shear, the more they get paid. So. And then the handpiece is pretty much the same as what a barber has. So you've got your comb on the bottom, which is screwed on, and then you've got your cutter on top working side to side. So they're going through sort of 3 or 4 combs an hour, and anywhere from maybe 4 to 8 cutters an hour.
Wow.
They do get little cuts on them too, so don't be too shocked if I give it a little cut. It's just part of it. I've had some guests walk out because they're too scared to see a sheep get shorn, thinking it's going to be screaming, and some of them think we have to skin the sheep. Yes, most are quite shocked on how passive the sheep are. So. You can really see that lanolin on my hands, so that's the natural oil on the sheep. That'll help protect any cuts. It'll basically waterproof the sheep, so when it gets really, if it's in a big downpour rain, it'll just basically shake and the water will just beads off. The skin will double in thickness in a few days, which helps keep it warm, and she's basically just going to eat a lot more now to keep warm. Just her digestive system working is what's going to keep her warm.
Bradley lets the visitors have a close-up view of the wool he's taken off.
Interesting, very interesting.
This is lamb's wool, so it's a lot shorter than what I showed you with the ewe fleece. All these discoloured bits and shorter bits they take out, so the belly and the short bits around the legs, points of the legs and that sort of thing, they take out.
And you are able to sell it, just not for much money.
Yeah, no, we can still sell it. So yeah, I've just sold my wool today actually, and I think I got for the lamb's wool got $5,500, but it cost me $10,000 to pay the shearers. So
it's not a business.
It's just a byproduct of farming.
Asking all the questions was Monty Reed, a guest at the lodge from Arizona.
Well, I was a businessman when I worked, and just how any business works, I find very fascinating. And every business always has so much more detail of what they have to do than you would think on just first looking at it. I've seen a few sheep shearing and dog demonstrations before. This was by far the most in-depth.
What does this add to your experience of the country? Seeing the shearing, hearing a farmer talk?
It makes me understand as you're driving in the beautiful countryside, just what's happening on the different farms and what they're doing.
Should we walk as we go? And
sure.
And what surprises you about what you've seen? What you've heard from
How
Bradley?
little I know about farming. Bradley did an excellent job, and it was just I found it very interesting just how quickly he could explain a lot of the business to rookies like me. You can save your grass by letting the wool be longer, but then you can have other problems. I did find that if you don't shear them and the sheep falls over, it may not be able to get back up, and the sheep can roll down the hill. I found both of those kind of funny.
The guests head off on the rest of the farm tour, but Bradley's not finished yet, having to deal with questions. Now, you have to deal with more than just the guests. Sometimes these are celebrities or, high-flying executives, and they might have their own retinue of people alongside, security people. What's it like farming with a whole bunch of different factors like that?
That side of it's not too bad. I just do my farm tour the same way I always would do it, and sometimes you do see guests walking past the yards and things like that, and they'll have security with them, and it doesn't change my day really. So you just carry on and do your own thing, and sometimes it can be pretty intense when there are a lot of police and that sort of thing around as well, but that's very seldom. Most of the famous guests are more probably famous in the US, and I have probably met some very famous people and would be none the wiser. I know I've met basketball players, I've been told after the fact that they were famous basketball players and that sort of thing, but in New Zealand obviously they're not overly famous, and I wouldn't know them if I fell over them. But
how important is the farm for the lodge and for the tourism business?
Well, basically it's sold as a farm on a lodge, and that's, I guess, a point of difference, having the wide open spaces and the sea to the south of us, and the Rimutaka Forest Park to the north and west of us. So yeah, I guess it gives it a sense of identity that maybe other luxury lodges may or may not have. Obviously there's other ones on farms as well, but this is a pretty unique and special part of the country too. So it's it gives the lodge an identity, and I guess the lodge also gives the farm an identity, because there's that point of difference too. So
are many of the guests here to see the farming operation?
We do get a few that are specifically wanting to sort of learn about the farm and have asked to spend a bit more time with me than just the farm tour. And other people that are a lot of Australians are quite interested, that have come from farming or farming backgrounds. They might have their own farms. We get a lot from there, and the odd one from the UK, and the odd Kiwis as well that have come through and want to know sort of what I'm doing here. But it's pretty much a standard sheep and beef farm anyway. It's to me it's probably not all that much different than a normal farm in the way it's run. There's just the extra elements of the lodge side of the business added into it.
Does the farm support the lodge, or the lodge support the farm?
Oh, well, initially the lodge was put in as more of a homestay. That was started in the 80s, so when the subsidies came off farming, it was sink or swim, and the lodge sort of propped the farm up through that time, and then it sort of has swung the other way. The farm's really helped the lodge be economic at times, at least for maybe the first sort of 5 to 7 years. The lodge was really reliant on the income from the farm. It swings and roundabouts. And
what does it add to your job, do you think, having this involvement with guests from all over the world? Because the farming can be pretty solitary.
I just definitely, not just with the guests, but also having staff around. I guess the isolation can get to you a wee bit. Just having lots of people around is always good. It's always someone to talk to, and basically I get paid to show off what I do for a living, and most guests are pretty interested in that, and that's very rewarding.
Bradley Riggs there, the farm manager at Wharakoho Country Estate on Palliser Bay, over the hill from Wellington. That story was produced by Sally Round. You might have heard Bradley Jr. there too. He was great at sweeping up the wool after the shearing demonstration.
My name is Hamish Best. I am a sheep farmer and meat retailer from Conscious Valley in Ohariu Valley, currently sitting out on the farm looking out over the Cook Strait. You're listening to Country Life on RNZ National.
Now we're heading to the bottom of the South Island, to Waiponamu, with Cosmo Kentish Barnes. He's at the Waiau A&P Show.
Right, the lady is going to talk about the shooting down the people. The man is. So is it the man or is it the lady? She's pointing to him, he's pointing to her.
Yes, I'm in charge. Come and have a shoot, all ages from about 1.5 up to 90. Here's a lady who just had a go.
Yeah, I had lots of fun. It's the first time I've ever shot out of a gun. I have arrived at the Tuatapere domain in southwestern Murihiku, Southland. And for those of you that don't know it, it's a small domain surrounded on three sides by beautiful dense native forest, and on the other side trees and vegetation lead down to the Waiau River. Now this is where the Tuatapere Rugby Club is based, and in fact these slightly wonky goalposts are still standing, but today the ground has been transformed into an equestrian arena, and right now I believe the handy horse section is being judged. Now first up I am going to have a chat with Isabel Devery, who is the show organiser.
So I'm the secretary of the show, and so I do a lot of the organising and sponsorship, and I help with the trade, organise these lovely people to come along and sell their things.
Now, what's the history behind this A&P show? How long has it been going on for?
So this is the 85th Waiau A&P Show in Tuatapere. I think there's only been 2 that have missed, and I think there was 84 floods and maybe the war, I think. Yeah.
So a long history.
Yep. Yeah.
How important is this for the local community?
Well, it's really important, I think, for our agricultural rural sector. You know, we're kind of struggling away here, so it's really important. And I mean, these people put amazing amounts of work into their animals, and so it's really important to be able to celebrate them, I guess. Yeah.
What happens today? Give me a rundown.
So we've got the equestrian running out here in the main ring that runs from 9 o'clock this morning. So all the judges and stewards are out there. Over the south end is the dairy section. So local dairy farmers. Over down the other way is our sheep section. And our marquee is the produce, so all the people's veggies and colouring competition and flowers. And yeah, obviously trade sort of all around the ring.
And what's your background? Are you involved in the agricultural industry?
Yeah, so we're sheep and beef farmers. 4 k's out the road we have Pickabur and Angus stud. My mum and dad are life members. They're actually in the kitchen cooking the food for the lunch for the judges. My sister, she's the course designer for the A&P show. My brother's been the president. If you go around the different sections, there's lots of family support, and it goes back a long time.
Yeah, and that's, I guess, what keeps the show going.
Yeah,
that family
it really
support.
is. I love the show, and it's just a big part of what we do.
So who is this year's president?
So president is Jamie King. You'll find him down in the sheep section.
I'm going to let her tell you about what she's got here, something a bit different.
Kia ora, I'm Priscilla. We've got Māori design earrings and tumblers. And beside me I've got the boys with games, to win prizes, candy floss.
Hi Jamie, you're the president of the show here.
Yes.
What does that involve?
Dotting I's and crossing T's and make sure everyone pulls their weight, getting entries and just making it today. I can't control the weather though, so luckily today we've got a good one.
I feel like it's going to be quite hot today.
Yes, no, once this burns off it'll be scorching.
We are standing beside the sheep section, and how have entries been this year?
We're back quite a bit. Sheep numbers are generally in a bit of a decline, unfortunately, but look, we still get great support from the locals, and I run quite a neat hoof and hook competition with our prime lamb section. Stud entries are a bit behind, but no, all in all we've got a good, reasonably good turnout.
What sort of sheep are we looking at now?
So we've got the black and coloured section and a few of the kids' pet sheeps here in the front row. We've got some terminal all breeds over there that are getting judged right at the moment. So we haven't really got many others in today. And over the back there we've got all sorts of mixed breed of prime finishing lambs.
Yep.
So we've got Calvin Lott over here from Carfields doing the stud stock judging. And then we've got Blaine DeVries and Mark Mitchell from Alliance Group.
Yes.
This is actually as hard as I've seen Mark work for a long time. He's getting a bit colourful in the face there, eh?
Oh, good stuff. And there's also a dairy section here.
Yes, we've got the dairy cow girls over there. It's quite a large section. So, and yeah, they normally have a really good turnout, and it's a terrific day. A lot of them camp out overnight and do their thing, so it's neat.
Hunter Roster with Whistle Down Farming and Ford Jubilee Valencia.
I'm in the cattle section with
Merv Livingston.
And Merv, you've got some entries?
Yeah, well, these are my animals. I'm trying to pick the best calves, but you go back to the big mob now and I reckon I get better calves, but that's life. But the white one won a gore show and there was 6 or 7 in that class.
Tell me about this one, number 10.
It's a wee bit orangey. she's got a few flecks on her. And when you're walking down the lane, she's so wide in the back legs, and it stood out. She was showed at Wyndham Show, and so yeah, I've been breeding Esses all my life, and a few more.
How long have you been attending this show?
I've never missed it.
Since you were what age?
5 or 6. I'm 76 now. Yep. The hole in the bush is known as. It's always had an atmosphere of being a friendly show. Everybody mixes together and enjoys it.
It's a very relaxed setting, isn't
That's
it?
the idea of it.
Where do you farm?
Close to Riverton's a dairy farm, and the runoff. I live on the runoff. I don't do the milking no more, but yeah.
Yeah, and some friends of yours have done the showing?
Yes. This is the McIntosh family. I milked his father's cows for years, and I give them the yearlings. So I always love the kids to come along and exhibit.
And some of the children are quite young.
Yes.
Like 5 or 6 or 7.
This is how you get used to it. That's how I was brought up. Dragged around the shows with my parents. Yeah.
You're really proud of your animals, aren't you?
Well, that's what we're here for. I enjoy breeding cattle. Why not? Too many people are milking cows that haven't got that passion.
I am with Nicole Horrell, and Nicole, you're the chairperson of Environment Southland?
That's correct.
And you've got a tent here today?
Yes, we have. We've been trying to get around shows and places that people are so that we can have conversations about our environment and what people's priorities are. So there's a few little games and surveys people can do.
What were you doing before you became chairperson of Environment Southland?
Well, I'm still a sheep farmer. People say you're retired, and I say no, I'm just tired. But we've farmed on this particular farm. I'll have been there 50 years next year.
And of course, Environment Southland works closely with farmers. What are some of the biggest issues you have been dealing with of late?
Well, I guess the water quality one is, but the government have told us that at the moment they don't want plan changes till they make some changes themselves. Action on the ground, we know that creating wetlands is actually very good for not only slowing the flow of water, which might help in flood events, but taking out sediment, nitrogen, phosphate, etc. And farm plans, where people have a farm plan that they actually own and value, their environmental outcomes and economic are better. So we've actually got 37 catchment groups that have sprung up across Southland.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, and these are small communities who are saying we're here for the long term, we want to be part of the solution, and that's really powerful. So the government have put a little bit of money in to help these communities get on and do stuff, and actually being able to get out and have conversations with your community is really good.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it?
It is.
Yes, and there are several Environment Southland staff members here mingling.
Yes, they're giving up their Saturday to do this, which is fantastic.
Oh, hello everybody, I'm Catherine. I'm here with my mum Heather today. We live in nightcaps. I make all these mugs. They've got all the cows you want, alpacas, sheep, all the Southland scenes. So my mum's got this beautiful hand-dyed yarn here for knitting and weaving.
Mel, what are you doing here today at the show?
I've got native plants for sale. Through the Green Machine Nursery that I work for, but I bought these all with my own money, and my boss supports me and having my own little hustle on the side, if you want to call it. He's quite proud of me actually, and I attend some of the markets as well, Flexhall and Riverton or car boot sale at Last Light Lodge, and I thought there'd be a lot of farmers here today that might be interested in some cheap natives today, and because we can only buy online with the Green Machine, people can't come into the nursery, so I thought I'll bring what I can and out into the public. And
yeah, good idea, because I mean farmers are really getting into planting natives now on their properties, aren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. It's good for the environment, and you can't beat natives, can you? They're hearty as well.
Yeah. What have you got here?
Today I've got the Karokia Red Wonder, which is a real bird puller when it goes into berry. I've got flaxes, tenufolium purples, they're beautiful. I've got some black beech in the back there, ribbon woods and lay sparks, which are really good for shelter bouts.
Yep. What's your background? Do you live locally?
I've been in Tui 7 years. I'm originally from Invercargill, but Mum and Dad are from Gisborne, North Island. Came down here for the Tiwai smelter back in the day, and Tuatapere community have really welcomed me and my children in when we walked in the door 7 years ago. And I'm so proud to work for Green Machine Nursery. To be fair, I represent something that's good for our environment, and I enjoy my job. And I'm also doing level 2 in horticulture through my nursery.
It's great when employers do embrace higher learning through the workplace.
Absolutely, I'm so lucky, and I didn't do so well at school, but I'm loving this horticulture. I'm loving it.
And you've got your dog here?
I have. Her name is Kush. I've had her a few years now.
Hi, Kush.
She's a Hunterway cross with a collie. She's my best friend. She's my queen, and
she's very laid back, isn't she?
She's pretty cool. I could take her anywhere. She definitely draws attention. She's drawn more attention today than my plants.
Thanks, Mel, and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Take care.
Well, Mel has chosen a good place for her native nursery stall there because it's sitting under 2 huge totara trees, which will give her some much needed shade this afternoon because it's getting quite hot. Now, I've come to the equestrian area where most of the horses and their carers are, and I am with Grace. Now, Grace, tell me about your horses.
Well, we've got Percy here. He was born in 2018, and we've got Whiskey. She was 2010, I'm pretty sure. He's a gelding. She's a mare. She's very good. He's very naughty. It's heaps of fun. We've not got many minis here. We've got some just up the way down there. The one's behind us, but way more easier than the big horses, I find. Yep. And you can float them in tiny little floats, put them in the back of your vehicles. They're really, really easy. It's nice, yeah.
They really are quite mini, aren't they?
Yeah.
What sort of size are they?
I know that Category A is under 34 inches, which is what she is. Category B is under 38 inches.
Yes.
He's just about 38. She's tiny, though. She's
She
really
is tiny.
small. Yeah.
She's not even up to my waist.
No, she's tiny, yeah.
Now, Whiskey has got a full bodysuit on that goes right down to her hooves.
Yep.
Only her ears, eyes and mouth are showing.
Yeah, it's just to keep them clean pretty much. They love to roll in the dirt after a bath, so that's why we wrap them up so good. Yeah.
How did you get into showing your horses? What's your story?
It was ages ago. Mum took sister and I to Tapanui show, and it was the worst day ever. It was pouring down with rain, and we went and watched the minis, and then we went back and had lunch in the ute, and then we ended up going home, and then I think we just caught it from there. And then we started with Whiskey and another one, Brandy. She's at home, and then just built on from there, and now I've got too many of them. Too many horses.
Where are you from?
Gorse, like 17 minutes out of there, like Arthurton.
Yes, and you're here with your sister?
Yes, Olivia.
Do you normally go around the shows as a team?
Usually we have Mum, Dad with us. They don't want to come this weekend. They're over it a bit, getting to the end of it. We've only got Invercargill left.
Class 73, the black and coloured ewe to Shiranova. First going to Anita Erskine with tag 26. Second to Nicholas Erskine with Cherry. The second.
Hi, Rhoda.
Hi.
You are the main announcer here, aren't you?
I am.
How long have you been announcing at the show here for?
I'm not sure how long I've been announcing, but probably a long time. I started here in 1949 as a rider. Went through from being a rider to bringing my children here till they were adults, and then somehow I've ended up with this job, which is good.
Someone's just brought you some refreshments.
Aren't I lucky?
Fruit and sandwiches and a scone with cream and jam.
They look after me very well. They do.
Now this little room sits on top of the club rooms, really,
Yes,
doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
And you've got a big open window there that there's no glass. It just opens right out.
When we first came here, I think I was sitting on the roof. And then we graduated and they put, which was virtually like an outer toilet on the top of the roof, and I sat in there out of the elements. And now we've graduated to this. I think the rugby referees, etc., use it mainly, but this is luxury.
All right. The course is now open to be walked for those that are in that first class.
Now, Josephine, you are competing today.
Yeah.
Tell me about your horse that we're looking at now.
So this is Sweet Pea. She's a full-bred Connemara. She is 18 this year. And when she was really young, like a baby, she got taken over from Australia, which is where she was born.
Do you ride her regularly?
Yeah, quite often.
What category are you competing in today?
I'm going to be in the jumping. I'll be doing the beginner and the 65 centimetres in the jumping and the 50 centimetres around the ring.
Do you get a bit nervous about the jumping side of things?
It's mainly with like the showing and that, so I didn't do that today, but I'm excited for the jumping and the around the ring.
You enjoy that?
Yeah.
And I saw that you were painting something on Sweet Pea's hooves. What's that?
That's hoof foil. It kind of makes the hooves shine a bit more.
Oh, just to make them look a bit prettier.
Yeah.
What other things do you do to the horse?
Well, I was originally going to have her mane plaited and done up into small balls, but they were kind of coming undone, so I've just let them loose and go all curly.
Now just remember that the doors are closing for judging at 11 a.m. at the produce market.
Well, it was nice to chat with a few of the horsey people here at the back of the domain, where there must be 20 or 30 floats and trucks. And tied to the floats are quite a few horses munching on the grass and on hay, waiting for their turn to compete in the arena.
Also the farm animals are under the totem trees round the back here. The littlies love it.
Now I am with Chris Pogiers at the animal farmyard.
Yes, well the main aim at the animal farmyard is to have puppies and kittens and bunnies for children to actually hug and hold, just to give them that contact with animals, basically, for children, especially in town, that don't get that opportunity. Yep. So we've got some Hokanui merino pet lambs that my daughter actually reared. The Hokanuis were released into the Hokanui Hills near Gore many years ago and got quite wild, but they're reasonably quiet now. And we've got rabbits here that have come from Invercargill and a hen with some chickens. So we tried to find donkeys, couldn't find any, tried to find piglets, couldn't find any, so this is what we've got.
That's a pretty good selection, and in fact right now we can see a boy holding a puppy and he doesn't want to let go of it, does he?
No, look, we get children of 16 that just want to hug puppies for hours. It was just so hard to find puppies, honestly. I asked everywhere. Luckily the lady next door had actually specifically bred a litter for me because I couldn't find puppies anywhere, because we've just got so much land around here going into forestry, and then you've got all these shepherds that don't have dogs they don't need, so why would you breed puppies, you know?
The changing landscape of farming, I guess.
It's very sad actually, because a lot of this area, especially the Happy Valley nearby, I mean it was bought out of bush by the old guys in a very hard way, and now it's gone into pine trees, and it's beautiful land and it's destroying communities, and you know, pine trees do nothing but acidify the ground and cause fire risk really, and pollute waterways.
It's pretty sad.
It's extremely sad and extremely distressing, to be fair.
Are you a farmer?
Yes, I am. I've got dairy lease, plus I have 50 acres around the house I just have sheep on, and we have coloured sheep. We have the Hokanui merinos, we have Tefrom ewe-hoggets that we put the black-headed Dorper over and get very nice coloured lambs, because we only let them rear one lamb as a hogget. So my daughter sells the orphan lambs for pets, and she's got very good markets for that. And we've also got Wiltshires.
How special is this A&P show for you?
Well,
what does it mean to you?
Well, this is just about what this whole community is about. And, you know, like, Tuatapere is a great community because we're far enough away from Invercargill, whereas Taota is a lovely community, but it's so close to Invercargill, they've lost their A&P show and different things. We've managed to hold on to ours, and there's an amazing community spirit in Tuatapere. Amazing people here. I think everything's about local now, isn't it? You know, like, we've got to depend on our local people and look after our local people, especially business-wise. Look at that wee girl over there holding the puppy. It's so important for children to connect with animals because, in the end, everything we need to know is contained in nature, and animals have so much to give us.
Chris Bogers ending that story from the Waiau A&P Show at Tuatapere in Western Southland. Cosmo also spoke to Isabel Devery, Jamie King, Mel Edwards, Merv Livingston, Grace Morrissey, Nicole Horrell, Relda Mackay, and Josephine Chartres. And that's it for this episode of Country Life. Do let us know your feedback by emailing country@rnz.co.nz.
Click follow on your app if you don't want to miss an episode of Country Life. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we'd love you to give us a plug on social media or tell a friend about this show. Click the share button in this app to send this episode to a friend.
The stories in this episode were produced and presented by me, Janina Schwanica, Sally Round and Cosmo Kentish Barnes. In the studio production team today, David Knowles and Phil Benj.
Catch you next time.
Ka kite.